Hey you guys, Pastor Dante here, and we're going to continue our series on the 21 questions. This has been eye-opening for a lot of people, but we took 8 successful men, we put them in a room, and we asked them 21 questions about life, about finances, about relationships, about God, and it's very interesting, some of the answers that we got back. It's also very interesting some of the places that the conversations went. And so today's 21 questions might be a little controversial, but it's all about discovery. It's all about talking and learning from one another. So a somewhat controversial 21 questions. God bless you. And as far as fears, Jesus, there's a list. But I know my greatest fear, and I'll let you guys answer this question. One of my greatest fears with my family, I started a family very young, very, very young. And thank God He's kept that family close together today. I'm married to one lady. She's been my lady the whole time, have my sons, we're all in the same house, we go to our 4 corners, but we're all together. But one of my greatest fears is not being able to provide for them. At any point, not being able to provide security, not being able to provide, money, not being able to make sure it's more than a jug of water in the refrigerator. Those are, I always tell my boys, if it go real bad, I'll go sell oranges on Southwest Military. I'm gonna make sure. If I gotta get it, I gotta get it. I'm gonna make sure we're all right. But what about you guys? What are some of your greatest fears?
I've seen him hustle. I believe everything he just said. I've seen him hustle since the
inception.
Inception.
Yeah, that's a good word.
Yeah.
Inception.
Yeah, I've seen him hustle. So
I echo that. Is one of my greatest fears is to let my children down. Again, we'll get into that at a later point, sure. But to not be able to have that. I'm sure as men we can all. That's in our DNA. It's in us. We go out. We grab a spear. We go out there and get it. If something got to be killed, that's us. But one of my greatest fears, and I've discussed this with people before, and a lot of people don't like to touch it. But as it relates to my children, one of my greatest fears is for one of my boys to be gay. I'm gonna keep it real.
Wow.
That I don't know. I want to say, I'm gonna love him. I'm gonna support him. I want to say it. Sounds good. But that is a fear, like an inbred fear, Doc. And I know people, we're in 2013, everything's supposed to be accepted and love thy neighbor, and nah, man. I'm not there yet.
No, play.
He's still working on me. He's still.
Let me ask you something. It's gonna be challenging. Would you rather your son be gay or be a murderer?
It's not that easy of a question.
Because I've had the same. My oldest is 17. I have a 14-year-old boy and a 6-year-old girl. And I've gone through that cycle. How old are your boy?
I got 15, 16, 12, 7.
I took that very same sentiment to the Lord, and that's what He asked me. Would you rather him be gay, or would you treat him differently if he was in gay or if he was in jail for murder? And my conviction was, well, in the eyesight of God, culturally, right, we deal with it differently. But in the eyesight of God, sin is sin.
Sin is no different.
But see, okay, now let's chop it up. Because at a certain point, to have murdered doesn't make you, to have murdered, we would call somebody who has murdered somebody a murderer. But someone who is gay perpetually participates in an activity that is against God's law. So
I think that's a misnomer, and I think if you ask most homosexuals that, they'd say that's not the case.
Wait.
Yeah.
You define homosexuality by
By
your
participating
sexuality.
in
Right. No,
homosexual
you
acts.
define it by sexual acts.
Right.
Sure.
Homosexual acts.
Right, exactly. So
So at some point you can have murdered and
stop
be
being
remorseful and stop
I
being a
said
murderer.
a murderer or gay.
But this is what I'm
You
saying.
go to jail and you keep murdering. He's still a murderer.
Okay, no.
I mean, no,
Okay, so
you
I agree
understand
with
the
that.
essence of my
I
question.
agree.
It's
No, I
a
agree with that.
criminal, engaged in, I mean, you know what I'm
If he
saying?
has been a murderer and he engages in murder and he continually and perpetually engages in murder and he thinks it's okay
or whatever
that
the
God
act is.
that God still
Don't get
loves
lost
him.
in the premise of my
Sure,
question
sure.
of what I'm trying to
Sure.
address, and the point of that
Sure.
is, if God has accepted me in whatever I've been in, and whatever I've done,
Yeah.
and I feel okay about it because it's a cultural norm. You know what I mean? I've got to have that same level of consciousness for whatever my children.
But to what Banks said, that's a valid point. If my son were to participate in a homosexual act or to participate in a murder, then there's a difference between being gay, for that's your lifestyle now. You're going to live gay day to day, or you've committed a murder, you're caught, now you're in jail, or whatever the case may be.
No, I mean, are you
There's a
gay
difference.
between the times you have gay sex?
No, you're gay. You live
Are you gay between the times you murder someone?
You're gay every time somebody asks you.
Wait. But I want to make
Pretty
sure
much.
that we're all on the same page here, because again, if I think it's okay for me to murder people consistently every night if I feel like it, in other words, I go to the club with
To
the
murder.
idea that I'm going to murder,
Okay.
then no, I don't want my
I
son
don't
to
wanna
be a
do that,
murderer as opposed to somebody who goes to the club with the idea that they are going to
I
participate.
have the opportunity
in
to
sexual acts.
minister to a lot of homosexuals, gays and lesbians, and I can tell you that most of them are just like you say. Most of them, I'll say 50 to 60%, don't want to be doing what they're doing.
Oh,
Don't
sure,
think that
sure.
murder is okay. Don't
Sure.
think that. You understand what I'm
Sure.
saying?
Yeah, and then that's all total different.
Right.
I understand exactly.
I'm going to take it backdrop to the initial question is, what would you be able to do? I'm speaking from the platform. I don't have children, so I don't know.
Okay.
So my vision may be a little skewed in this. But I just don't think that you can raise a child, provide for them, take them to football, take them to dance, do whatever, for 15, 16, however many years it takes them to admit that they're gay, and then cut them out of your life. I just don't know if you can do that.
True.
I think what would happen is it would be an initial shock.
True.
And you might need a month or 2 or 3 or 4, whatever. But your loving child that's out there that is gay, that says I'm gay and this is my boyfriend, this is my girlfriend, whatever, needs you. I don't think you would turn them away.
That's a good way to keep them gay.
I don't think you would turn them away. I don't think now. You know what?
Go on.
John can't bring Bob to the Thanksgiving dinner.
That's what I'm talking about.
You can't bring him.
And
Maybe.
maybe. As long as they don't
But for the most
murder
part-
at Thanksgiving dinner. They don't
no bloodshed.
But I think it would be an initial shock that it would take you a while to get over. It would be like a dad having a daughter who gets pregnant at 15 or 16. It's an initial shock, but you're not going to cut them out your life.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what would happen.
Right.
Maybe.
I hear you.
Maybe.
But that leads us to the I love my son, but how far does that love extend? Does that love extend to my son's boyfriend?
Can I be the elder statesman again? Can I be the elder?
By all means.
I think I know why I'm here. I think I know.
Come
why
on.
I'm here. Being the elder statesman. Be honest and pray. At 21 years old, my brother's son walked up behind a young man in the middle of a crowd, popped him at close range. My brother's son is doing life in prison. My nephew at 21. At 21, my son called me from school, from college, on a full 4-year scholarship. Dad, I just got kicked out of school. 4-year scholarship, paid. I just got kicked out of school. I said, why? He said, because last night, after a party, me and my roommate went back to the barracks. He woke up, I was giving him head. I said, are you gay? That's my son. At 21, my son came out. I got a nephew doing life for murder.
Come on, man.
I got a son who came out and was gay. Be honest and pray.
What'd you say?
So yeah, what was your reaction?
If I want to address the first
take the
question.
number.
I want to address the first question.
Okay.
Dante said his greatest fear
Okay.
is, not being able to provide for his family. This is God honest truth, and I'm welcome to talk about it. I don't fear anything. I've lived my life not fearing anything.
Yes, sir.
I don't. I acknowledge God. And for me, the acknowledgement of God removes all my fears.
All right.
It removes them. Anything that comes to me that introduces fear in my life, my acknowledgement of God removes them. So I don't have fears. Your question is, what did I do after the phone call? I flew to Phoenix. And I sat my son down outside the track because his scholarship was in track. 4 years. All you got to do is run for 4 years, and your education is paid for. Your future is set. I sat him outside the track, and we talked for 2 days. I asked him about his decision. I asked him, I said, you've been with me all your life. First of all, let's talk about, have you ever seen me force myself on anyone? And you've seen me with your mother. You've seen me with my second wife. You've seen me with other women. Have you ever seen me force my... So I presented to him the principle of taking something that doesn't belong to you. I presented that to him. I didn't speak to him about, quote unquote, being gay. I spoke to him about what he did, the act that he performed, and how he did it, etc. Since that conversation, and I'm having a very integral, honest moment. I presented to him what I feel the Bible says, or what I know the Bible says about being a man. And I said, you have to make decisions for your life at this point. I said, I feel like I've, done what I can. Our interactions have been extremely limited. In the past 2 years, we've talked maybe twice. He's still my son.
Right, of course.
But
What is that predicated on? Why is that? Why the distance? Several things. There are some other things.
Is that because you made your stance on it clear?
I made my stance on it. Yes,
Okay.
I made my stance on it, and he has chosen to continue to make decisions that are accustomed to that lifestyle. So, but I've said to him, I'm always here. If you need me, call me. You know where I am. You know what I do. You know what I represent. I mean, we even had the discussion, when you talk to your friends about your dad. Because one of the things I was challenged with my son as he was growing up, I'm not the fireman father. I'm not the,
you don't run into
blue collar.
fires out.
When you talk to your friends about what your dad does, what do you tell them?
Okay.
Because, my
Dad's a minister.
I work in ministry.
Yeah, minister.
And that's what I've done for his entire life. And he said, I tell him you're a musician, you're a minister of music. I said, okay, I'm good with that. So, our conversations, I guess I'm trying to answer your question. Have I reached to him as much as I should? No. No. Because it is challenging for me as a dad, as a father, as a man. It's challenging for me to reach to him and present things to him without that becoming a part of the discussion.
How in our wrong, right? Wrong being wrong, whatever playing field it is on. How does God as our Father interact with us? And how does that differ than how you've interacted with your son?
I believe God interacts with us at the root of the thing. I was having a conversation with Dante one day. Dante said something that has stuck with me. Dante said, drum. Basically what it is uncontrolled lust. His desire for men is lust out of control. Not love, lust out of control. And I believe God deals with us at the root of a thing and not necessarily at the manifestation of it. And
do you think that, I feel that God in actuality allows the results of our decision and the circumstances that our decisions produce to be the behavioral correction that we end up needing, as opposed to him necessarily dealing with us directly. I mean, you understand what I'm saying?
Okay. And I feel like we're kind of saying the same thing. I think God is at the root of it.
Right.
And then the manifestation of the results of it is our correction.
But God continues to provide, to bless, to engage, to be open,
absolutely.
to be receptive,
Absolutely.
to hear our prayer, to all of that.
Okay. Absolutely. Absolutely. One of my favorite sayings is God's not mad. God's not mad. It's a difference between wrath. It's a difference between wrath and anger. God's not mad. He's not angry. And God's not angry with us. There will be a moment of whatever we sowed into the ground, we'll also have to reap those things. But you're absolutely right. God is not angry with us, and he's not daily punishing us for the daily sins that we do. It doesn't work that way.
Because I
And so, just to finish that point, and also to touch on what Nathan initially said, although it's definitely a fear of mine. At some point, or like Daryl said as well, at some point you have to say, okay, they did it, they messed up. In my mind, it's not right. In my mind, I'm not all the way with it. But what do I do as a father? What's my position now? How can I be right? Because two wrongs don't make a right. So how can I do my part right? How can I console? How can I hug differently? How can I, you know what I mean? And approach all these kind of factors with a point to say, hey man, I don't agree with you, but I love the heck out of you.
But that's
And
what,
I think
that's
that's
why I
what
say,
God
how
says
far
to
does
us.
love extend?
Well,
Joe and Steve can't come
death.
live with me.
To death.
Love him.
Love extends to death.
I love the act. I love the life. I
Not at
love
all.
everything that goes
Not
with
at
it.
all. Not at all.
So then, can you fully love somebody
Absolutely.
and not love everything they do?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I believe so. Absolutely.